Wow, it is really a pleasure to be here. Thanks everyone for turning out. This is a really fantastic event. There's wall-to-wall people here. It's good to see this kind of interest in a subject like this. And I think it's growing exponentially every year, that people are realizing that this is not a fairy tale. It's really my pleasure to be here. Let's see, I've got lots of stuff in my pocket. I got Bigfoot on a stick. Bigfoot on a stick right here. But he put it in the computer, so I don't need my stick. And we're going to hope this technology works. Look at that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Bigfoot types. And people who are in this for a long time, they realize that they come across different types of evidence that seem to indicate that maybe perhaps they're not looking at the same thing all the time. Okay. I'm not sure if you can see this that well, but you're looking at tracks from Bigfoot that have films associated with the tracks. And that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about. One of them is the Patterson Bigfoot film. This is from the trackway, here on the left, here, my left. And then the other one is the Paul Freeman video, which is, if you look, it's quite different. And people wonder, you know, what am I looking at here? Because on film, they look very different. So we're going to discuss that. Now, once again, this is the Paul Freeman. The toes are kind of like, I think Jeff Meldrum calls them sausage toes. They're kind of forward on the foot, splayed. The foot has an hourglass type of pattern to it. And then you go to the Patterson foot. And you see there, hold on, I've got a better one than that. Oh, it won't enlarge. I can do this. There we go. Now, that's a pretty good shot of the back of the foot, and it very well matches, you know, the cast. So you can even see all the toes, but it doesn't look anything like the Freeman, the Paul Freeman footage. So what are we looking at here? Let's just take a look at a clip from the Paul Freeman footage, and we'll start a discussion right there.
This is some of those little ones' tracks that's in here. I come back up here today to cast these. They look like they're about 9 inches long. They're pretty good little tracks. He's sure living.
Now, Paul Freeman is alone. He's talking to himself. There's no one else with him.
Went right up this old trail. Run around up there to his mommy, I guess. I'm gonna mix up some plaster here and pour these. Now I got my cast made. And then 4 little tracks there.
Can't hear it too good, but he hears a crow. And that's why he goes off and points it in that direction, the camera.
32 inches between the stride there. Yeah, I'm gonna look around a little bit more, let these dry. Sometimes they come here and get water. looks like they've been here. Yeah. Been one here anyway. I don't know how. It looks like it's pretty fresh. Yeah, we're around this bush here. See what's going on here. Oh yeah, here's where. Yeah, here he's come down. Oh shit, he's come down and went back up. Oh. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah, he went back up the road, come down the road.
See the toes forward on the foot with splayed toes?
Sure have. Yeah, where he's come back up, went back up. Yeah. Look at that.
It's about to get
Too
weird.
much up through here. I hear the brush popping and stuff.
You know, it's kind of interesting because Paul Freeman is talking to himself, and the Hoopa Indians, they live not too far from, from Bluff Creek in Northern California. They've got a long history with Bigfoot. They were never removed from their ancestral lands. So they told me that if you encounter a Bigfoot, then you speak to it in whatever language you speak, and at the same time you're speaking to it, you back away. And the reason for that is that you confuse the Bigfoot. He's not really sure if you're alone. And that may have saved Paul Freeman's life. Let's continue. There he is.
Oh, there he goes. Jesus. Get up here where I can see him quick.
We're going to stop it right there. How do I get back down to X and out of it?
Stop right.
There it is. Let's see. Once again, there's Paul Freeman's, the track that Paul Freeman casted. And this on the left is a track in volcanic ash in Mexico. And you see the similarities. Except that the Mexican track is 1.3 million years old. There were no people, no modern humans around. So what is this? It kind of gives you a little sense of the age of what one of these true giants is, which what I call them, true giant Bigfoot. They've been around a very long time, unchanged. And so, I'm having a hard time seeing it from this angle, but that's in East Texas, folks. Right outside your back door. Well, not quite. It's kind of in the northern East Texas, but that's the same type track. You know, with the toes forward and splayed. And there were numerous ones taken. See there? But it doesn't look a thing like Patty's track. Patty's track's quite different. And the Hoopa endeavored to explain that as well. The Hoopa told me that in that area, there were 10,000 Chinese gold mining from the 1840s on, and there was a lot of interaction between these true giants and the abnormally large amount of people. And there were kidnappings, and even some pregnancies resulted from those kidnappings. This was at a time when they were undocumented and they just simply went missing. And what you see in the Bluff Creek area now, according to the Hoopa, are half and halves, or various mixes of the true giant and humans. Not that it happens easily. They're not a real good match, but they're close enough that it can happen. Here's another one. There again, that's East Texas. Just when you're going home tonight, you know, kind of scan the woods a little bit. I'll show you why on that too. Now this right here, that's Roger Patterson. These tracks all came from Northern California. Uh-oh, won't blow up. Let's see here. If you look, they're all the patty types, from the small to the large. So what the Hoopas say seems to be borne out in the evidence off the ground, that these are a more human-like type of, they call them Sasquatches, but in the old days, they used to call them Sasquatch Indians, and they were considered another tribe. Later on, the ape theory came into vogue, and they kind of dropped the Indian part off of there. Somebody once told me this wasn't Roger Patterson. I said, what do you mean? He says, Roger Patterson doesn't look a thing like that. I said, well, you need to go tell his wife, Patricia, because she gave it to me. You know, it's kind of frustrating sometimes, you know, with it, that in the process of researching something that's this vague, and the information trickles in, and people will dispute it, and sometimes for no reason. But anyway, that is Roger Patterson. Now I'm going to go back to the Freeman footage again, and what I want to show you about the Freeman footage is just plain freaky, and why if you ever encounter a track with those splayed toes, those sausage toes, and the R shape, don't follow it. Take a look at this.
Oh, there he goes. Jesus.
Where's the Bigfoot? Where did he go? Paul Freeman couldn't even find him. He took the camera off. Watch. There he is. How did something that large, that visible, suddenly vanish? And you hear tales of that all the time. There's the Bigfoot. Easy to see. Great big lumbering type. You see that it doesn't look like Patty. It has a totally different look. And it lumbers, it goes up and down, the head goes up and down, where Patty's like really smooth. Now, a few frames later, it's still there. It hasn't left. Where is it? How did it pull this off? And that's why this type, and even to an extent, maybe the Patty type, it can be dangerous to follow them because you don't know if they're there or not until maybe perhaps it's too late, because it stares at him for quite a while. It didn't just run away. And he's talking to himself, and it's probably thinking he's got somebody else there, and it doesn't do anything. It opts out of the encounter. Well, Let's see here. Here's another version of that where I stabilize the head, and you can it a little better because even when he disappears, you can see the head moving. So watch it. See, you can pick him out now. But if he stood still, you've lost him. So what do you do if you got something like that in front of you and you lose him? Do you go rushing up that way? Paul Freeman did. He did do that, and he's really fortunate to have survived it. I'll show you why she was doing that. Paul Freeman got directly behind her and was filming straight out, and if you look, he's filming into her back. And I say her because it's picking up a little small one right there. You can see the head, see the feet dangling. When it becomes stabilized, when you stabilize the footage, you can see it, that there was an offspring there. So that's probably Mrs. True Giant. But why or how did she pull off this disappearing act? And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit now. And I'm gonna do a little segue right here. I'm going to talk a little bit about a Bigfoot hamburger. Now, October of 2015, I went to kind of head an expedition. These Japanese gentlemen wanted me to take them down to Bluff Creek, and I did. But for a few days, they stayed in Willow Creek, and this young man was obsessed with a Bigfoot burger. I mean, watch. Look at this is a description of the Bigfoot burger. An enormous hamburger served on grilled garlic, sourdough, barbecue sauce, grilled onions, and cheese. And it's 1 pound. A full quarter pound bigger than the next one, which is the Lager burger. So, I took a few photos. And behind this gentleman was another young man who was drawing on a napkin. And these people were sitting there watching him eat this giant hamburger, and he's not big as anything. And they're kind of amazed. And so I took a series of photos, and this is how strangeness can happen if you're in the Bigfoot pursuit very long. You'll see strange things and experience strange things. This is in Willow Creek. He ate 3 of these hamburgers, by the way. So he's steady after that one. The other guy's steady drawing over here. A young man who was tall and lanky and had curly hair. He got to the point where his own cameraman couldn't hardly believe it. You know, that was kind of the way things were going in Willow Creek. But later on, when we left, we got out to the car and there was a napkin under the windshield wiper blade where this young man had drawn on this napkin. He left it there under the wiper blade. And most people read books, but I read napkins. I wish I could blow that up. I can. I could maybe enlarge the whole picture. There we go. And he made like a 2-frame little cartoon. And he's got Bigfoot going behind a tree, and then Bigfoot not coming out. He just like walks into the tree. And over here, I didn't know what type of writing this is, but it was later translated by a Russian friend of mine, and it says, "Look, I am here," in Russian. Now that's pretty strange, you know. Yeah, you're going to encounter some strangeness in Bigfooting, but this is really wild, and I'm just kind of filed it away. You know, a napkin is not the best media in the world. I wrote a whole book on napkins, but I couldn't find it after dinner. I wished I had asked for this napkin, but they took it back to Japan. But what I'm saying is that the young man knew something. He was trying to express himself in a cartoon form. So I just filed it away in my memory, and how do you back out of here? Right here. There we go. When I was doing some recent work on the Patterson film, and every time I rebuilt the film, I added new processing and new procedures that would improve it, you see about 10 new things. Well, I saw what he was talking about. Now take a look. Watch as she passes by this tree, her entire back goes blonde, almost the color of the tree, very near it, goes back dark again when she passes it. It takes on the tones of that tree. And she appears to have walked into the tree. So, how did the Freeman true giant and the Patterson Sasquatch pull this off, where they have interplay of light actually affecting the way it looks? So I began an investigation into hair. Let's see. This is a sample of what I am sure is Bigfoot hair. I have every reason to believe that it is. And if you look closely, you'll see a mix of all different types of colors. This is in a wad that apparently came somewhere off the rear end, I think. Kind of funky, but it kind of tells you a little bit when I examined it beneath a microscope. Let's see, let me advance it right here. If you look at this hair, it's got very tight scale patterns. The shafts are round, and it's got a high reflectivity. But it's also got semi-transparency. It's translucent. And some are even completely clear. And when the light from the microscope strikes these clear shafts, it bursts out in places of imperfection or bends. See the clear? See the tight scale pattern? Very, very, very tight to the shaft. Here's a completely clear one. Here's the light bursting out. So what you're looking at is the ability of the hair to transfer the light from one hair to the other. And that it will actually take on not a picture of what's around it, but general tones. So you look at the Freeman footage and he walks into the brush and it's gone. And you look at the Patterson film.
Okay, right here.
Once again, watch it become blonde in a wave. It begins to explain a little bit about Sasquatch and some of the mechanisms behind people that say, well, I saw him and then I looked back and he was gone. Was he really gone? And if he wasn't gone, maybe you should have been. Now here's another spot in the Patterson film, and I made this file to demonstrate neck motion, but it shows the hair very well in its interplay with light. Look at the hair on the leg flash as it moves in front of this light-colored debris. See it flash? It hits that hair and it literally just travels through the hair, one hair to the other. And it lights up like it was illuminated by, like it was self-illuminated. So I began to understand what the young gentleman was trying to tell me. And to this day, I don't know who he was, but he wrote in Russian, which is strange. So, one of those experiences that are unrepeatable in life, but it sent me on a road to a solution to some of what you see and experience in Bigfootery. Now, I need to go back. Now I'm going to kind of segue once again over to the Patterson footage, because I've had some really recent good results from processing or procedures with the Patterson film that has really resulted in some improvement. So I wanted to share some of that with you. And I busted it up into several clips, because it's very. Well, let me play this first. This is how the procedures worked. This is what I came up with, and it's a recording. And I'm just going to shut up and let me talk. Hello, I'm M.K. Davis. I was asked one time, what is the main problem with the Patterson Bigfoot film? Technically speaking. And I thought about it, and there's a lot of problems with the film. It's a home movie, shot, it's got all the problems of a home movie. It's fine for, showing what your aunt or your uncles or your mother, your father, or all we're doing on a given day. But when you shoot something of monumental importance and you try to magnify, you also magnify the flaws, and the Patterson film has plenty of them. And I thought about the question, and I had to say, rather than being the lensing and the many other problems involved with that, and even the steadiness of the camera, there's the main problem I see with it is that it was shot at a very slow frame rate. In other words, only about half of the event was filmed. Let me give you an illustration. This is one frame, and when I go to the next frame, look how much action was not filmed. Now, what that does when you try to show the film back and project it at the same film rate that it was taken, it becomes, it has an effect called flicker. You lose the cinematic effect. In other words, the cinematic effect is that you retain in your mind the previous frame while you're watching the next frame. And your mind laces them all together smoothly. Well, if you go down to a film rate that's below a certain threshold, you won't get that cinematic effect. It starts to break up in your mind into individual frames, and you can't really get the smooth effect out of watching it, the lifelike effect. So in order to kind of diminish that problem, the person usually takes the film and runs it faster than it should be run. And that smooths it out, but it makes everything fast. In other words, you don't get the sensation of mass if you're moving your arms like they were built of styrofoam. So, is there a way to mitigate that problem, to make it less, that it doesn't, to improve the film? And I thought about this for a long time, and it came to me that there was a way to do this. And I'll show you. Let's take a look at this frame right here. And I'm just going to put it in my imaging program. Now I'm
There it
revealing
is.
my secrets here. Y'all remember it.
Now, let's just load it into an animator. Let's see here. And I'm going to reduce it in size to 50%. There we go. Now, I'm going to take the next frame I've already taken this frame and loaded it into my animator, so I'm going to just cut it. And I'm going to overlay it to the very next frame. Okay, and then I'm going to go transparent or semi-transparent. Okay, there they are overlaying with a 45% transparency, and I'm going to line these two up. Now, I'm just lining right around this area right here where the nose is because it's easy to see. And I don't really care what happens in the background on this frame. So I'm going to go back to a 25% transparency. And there, I've got this original frame right here, but I have it with a 25% of the elements of the next frame built into it. So I'm going to merge those, copy it.
Anyway, to make a long story short, I create transition frames to bridge that gap between those two really good frames and to improve the cinematic effect where you no longer flickers and when you can follow the movements. And I'll show you the results of creating two transition frames. Uh-oh, here we go. Here we go. We play it right there. Wait a minute, I'm not there yet.
And this is entirely 100% the following frame now. I'm going to add that to the animation.
Stay with me now. I know it's hard, but it explains, what can be done to improve the film and what has resulted in a much improved version of the film. Now I'm going to run it here as soon as I line this last frame up. And instead of having 2 frames, I've got 4 frames now. And it increases the density. It increases also the load on the computer to display it. 100 frames.
All right. So I have 2 frames. And I started out with 2 frames. Now I have 4 frames. That's good enough. Now I'll run them. This was the information in 2 frames stretched into 4 frames.
Do you see the improvement? There's no jump.
So take a look at this right here.
Welcome to my obsession.
And look at this. I took this right here with this huge jump. And I made it into this right here.
But look at her mouth. You see, when you're able to follow that movement smoothly.
Beautifully.
I'm going to cut this off right there so I can have a chance to share some of the results. And let's just look at some of them here. Clip 1. Clip 2. And like I said, you see 10 new things when you boost it 1% in resolution. So let's look at back muscles. Look at the shoulder blade, the muscles on the back. See the glutes moving independently. So it's an obsession maybe, but you know, obsessed people get things done. If you think about this country, people getting on a covered wagon and going for 6 months through hostile Indian territory to get to California and they don't really know what they're going to do, I'd say that was a little obsessed. But obsessed people get things done. And it's nothing but just pure fortitude, stickability. Leg muscle contraction. You see she's got the hair worn thin by the movement of her hand across the leg, and you see right in there, you can actually see the leg muscle itself bulge as she comes across, puts that weight on it. Now, what am I seeing? Breast bounce. I'm going to go straight to breast jiggle. Look at that. So, you know, those things are hard to see when you can't keep the cinematic effect going. But once you got that cinematic effect corrected, you can see all of that, and that's exactly what the men described, that they saw muscles all over her, and that she had breasts and she was female. And so the next question is, you know, what do you do with a film like this? It's problematic. So some people, there's the arm swinging. See any zippers? It's all very smooth. Its skin stretches. Now, I'm going to go to the mouth movement. Look at that. Is it a mask? I think not. Here's an enlargement of it. Well, you know, those things I am immensely proud of, that I was able to rebuild this film into you know, its best possible form. And when people come to these conferences like you're here, and you see this, you got to realize that you're not spinning your wheel if you take this up. You're doing something that you're looking for a legend, you're looking for something that's, the odds are against you, but it's not impossible. Because it's been done. So I would like to encourage anybody who wants to take up the mantle of Bigfoot researcher, don't think that it's going to be a bed of roses, but don't think it's impossible. You're not doing everything impossible. Now let's see. Here is the highest quality frame from the film. I got that from Patricia Patterson. It's a fantastic frame, and it gives you a good idea of how good this film really was in its original form. And that if you could find that original film, it's all going to be like that. And it's a little bit of a puzzle as to why they didn't release the original, but we won't get into that right now. I'm just thankful that she shared that with me, and I'm sharing it with you. Okay. This is something I put together. I put all the high-quality Zebra Chromes inserts into there, so I stop her, and you can look at the higher quality prints. as it goes by. That's something, isn't it? Now, when I first got into this, I heard that Patterson took a fuzzy, grainy film. Let's see if I can get out of this. Now, net motion. Movement. Oh yeah, the left. Let me see if I can find it here. Object in left hand. There's something else that you see in the film. That she's got something in her left hand, but I say not in the left hand, because she shows the left hand in its normal size, but it's something that is suspended on her left side. And the Russians knew that she wasn't using her left arm properly many years ago when they did a study on it. But I found it again in the highly stabilized and the new processing, and there it is on the left side right here. And she's counterbalancing it with her right arm, and so I know that it's heavy. Can you see it there? Okay, now my theory is that it's a lanyard and it's around the neck, being suspended. And I began to go back and look at and review other frames, and this right here, which went unexplained for years, is part of that lanyard. And whatever she's got is on her left side, and she doesn't keep her hand on it at all times. She just reaches back there and steadies the swing. Neck rope. And I picked it up in the early part of the filming too, in a high quality frame. See it right there going across the back of the neck? So maybe that'll give you a little idea of what a Sasquatch is in the Bluff Creek area, that they carry things and they fashion things, and while they're not us per se, they're almost something. And what Paul Freeman videotaped would pass very much for an upright walking ape if you saw it. It's very brutish. But it doesn't have the genetics that this one does. So, you know, it's kind of you have to understand what it is you're looking at before you can understand, you know, the nature of it. That if you see the Paul Freeman type, run. If you see her, maybe not so much. Are we getting close? Is that it? Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thanks for having me here. And I hope maybe you carry a little bit home with you, a little knowledge. Thanks a lot.
If you liked this video, be sure to check out our other content and get connected on our page and social media sites. Every day, new discoveries are being made all across the world and beyond, so let's work together to find out what's next. And remember, we won't know if we don't go. I'll see you in the Vortex.